All right, this Sabbath I wanted to speak something more on sunlight. And in 2011, they did a study in Sweden on about 30,000 women that they followed up for about 20 years. And they looked at what sun exposure does to them. So they had reports written by them, self-estimates, where they said, I love the sun, I go into the sun whenever possible, I book holidays, I go into sunny countries, I sunbathe, I sun. And then you had the other end of the spectrum where women said, we hardly ever go out into the sun. We don't make an effort. We're just in the sun if it happens to be in the sun. And one of the reasons why they did it on women was that there are 3 malignant skin cancers, and one of them is melanoma. And melanoma, unfortunately, develops about 10 years earlier in women than it does in men. And there was always this big scare, you know, if women get out into the sun, they get melanoma. Now, the thing that was also observed was that melanoma has to do with the vitamin D level. And vitamin D is, as you might know, is produced by an interaction between the UV rays of the sun and our skin. And there a first substance is formed that goes through the liver and then through the kidney, and then it is ready to be used as this hormone and vitamin D. And the more of this vitamin D level you have, should you develop malignant melanoma, the more superficial the melanoma is, the more easier to excise, and the more, the greater your chances at survival. The women with the lowest vitamin D level, those that are not in the sun, they grow knotty, deep, penetrating malignant melanomas, which are difficult to reach surgically. Obviously, you can reach it surgically, but they also have a far less survival that is far less. So this was the scope that they had in mind. I'm sorry I can't show you the curves here, what the results were. The results were, they were in this study group, there were the 30,000 women that they observed for 20 years. There were about 2,500 deaths. And the researchers say, we found that all-cause mortality, so they looked at all causes for death, that all-cause mortality was inversely related to sun exposure habits. That means the more sun you got, the less likely you were amongst those that died. And vice versa. The less sun you got, the more likely you were to die. And the mortality rate amongst avoiders of sun exposure was approximately 2-fold higher compared to those with the highest sun exposure. 2-fold. That is mind-blowing. That is mind-blowing. So what the researchers came away with, and what they said in the study, is that, you know, the story that we've been told, out of the sun, out of the sun, out of the sun, because you get malignant melanoma, was pushed, especially in countries where you have a very high ultraviolet exposure, like in Australia. And you might have seen pictures, of women with broad Mexican hats, and long sleeves, and they protect themselves from every ray of sun. And the truth is slowly turning in that sense that we realize that our body needs sunlight. It just needs sunlight for various reasons. And whereas it is true that if you get repeated sunburns, especially if you are light-skinned and have reddish hair, these women predominantly have the highest risk, and there's also a genetic component that will make them go on to have melanoma. But not if you have a reasonable sun exposure that doesn't burn your skin, and you can protect your face because the face is always exposed to the sun and your hands. The funny thing is that melanoma rarely develops in the face. And so therefore, these researchers, they suggest that go out into the sun when the UV part of the radiation of the sun is the least. That is the window probably from 10 to 2 to 3 in the afternoon. But go into the sun per day at least, if you can, 2 times 15 minutes, 15 in the morning, 15 in the afternoon, or 20 in the morning, 20 in the afternoon, and you will get exactly the benefits that you need. Now, I've been listening to a few podcasts by Dr. Roger Seholt. He is an intensive care physician out of Loma Linda, and he is quadruple board certified, an absolutely brilliant guy, an Adventist. And he made an interview on Huberman's Lab podcast. Has anybody ever listened to Huberman Lab podcast? Then he makes, there's also, you just type in Roger, and his surname spells Seheult, Seholt. He does an interview with the president of Weimar University. He also does an interview with a guy out of Britain, and the podcast is called DOAC. And then, listen to them. I thought they were absolutely brilliant. And I would just like you to take home the lesson. And there are 2 points I would like to make. The lighter the skin, the easier your vitamin D production is accomplished. The darker your skin is, the less the likelihood drops. So the worst case is actually when you get an Arab woman that walks around with her burqa, and maybe even her eyes are shielded and the rest of her body is completely covered. She will most likely have pretty severe vitamin D deficiency. And also black-skinned people, they have their black skins because in Africa and in the tropical regions, you have a lot of sunshine and you do not need that much vitamin D. Or let's put it this way, your skin can be darker and still produce more than enough vitamin D. And the thing about vitamin D to know is that the skin, and it is absolutely brilliant, the body knows, God put that knowledge in us. When we stay in the sun, the vitamin D production increases to about 20 minutes and then it drops off. So it will give you that dose that you will need. It doesn't just continue. If you stay 5 hours in the sun, it continues to produce vitamin D. That does not happen. So the message there is if you stay out in the sun 20 minutes in the morning, 20 minutes in the afternoon, you get what you need. But the darker your skin, it is probably better to stay a little longer. And the second point I wanted to make is that in this Swedish study, they looked at other risk factors, hypertension, diabetes, and smoking. And they found out that women who stayed out of the sun, or no, let me put it the other way around. Women that were most in the sun and that smoked most had a better risk profile than the women that didn't smoke and stay out of the sun. Did you get it? So, and that is how powerful the sun is. And therefore, next week I will take a test. Everyone will walk by me through that door and I'll look at your suntan. Have a happy and sunny Sabbath. Thank you.